For example, in our country today, Ellie, we have very perverted kind of music that is introducing a lot of sexuality, unhealthy sexuality to our children. And it is provoking rape, it is provoking teen pregnancy, it is provoking a lot. So as a parent, you have to be to be on top of your game because of the kind of music that's being played in this country. It is influencing the decisions that your child is making. Now, when you come home and you find a particular song playing in the house, right? And you ask your son, hey, who is that? Who is singing that song? Oh, they'll be so excited. They'll tell you, oh, it's so and so. And you're like, oh, you like him. And it's like, yeah, why? You know, when you get this person and they begin to tell you why they feel thirsty. I feel thirsty because I haven't taken water the whole day. I feel thirsty because I'm drained. You can feel thirsty because you're drained, not because you want to take some water. I feel thirsty, but I can't be able to take some water because my stomach is full, or I'm bloated, or I can't take plain water because plain water irritates me. You understand what I'm saying? When it comes to communication as a parent, you have to be careful to hear more of hearing, less of talking. And to hear, to know that you have heard what your child is saying, is to do what we call follow-up questions. This is a very key element in communication. Ask, is you like listening to this particular artist because he talks about this, Is it because of the way he dresses that you find him to be interesting? Is it because it is what is trending at the moment? And maybe in the process, you can influence them by suggesting that they listen to a different artist. Welcome each and every one of you. I'm so excited to see you because tonight's topic is just going to take us to another level. We are talking about toxic parenting, and this is a very sensitive topic. It's a very controversial topic. People don't want to talk about it. People don't want to think about that they can be toxic parents. And we know that parents do put their best foot forward and they do their best for their children, but sometimes we scream a little bit too much than necessary. Sometimes we react to things. Sometimes we react to the children in relation to our relationship to our romantic partners, and that can be a little bit toxic. And that's what we want to talk about today. And we are looking forward to hearing from you. Post your comments down below, share, and invite everybody. Everybody who has a child, invite them to tune in as we talk about toxic parenting. And now is the moment you've all been waiting for, because you've been thinking, where is Ellie? Allow me to welcome my host, Mr. Ellie. Drum roll, please. Hata uwezi ongojea nimalize. Good evening, my brother.
Good evening, Nyokabi BK Kamau. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm fine. I thank God. I'm cold, but I'm trying to keep warm. And
I didn't receive the memo. You are looking gorgeous.
Oh,
and I hope this is because we want to talk about parenting in a toxic environment. So
you have to look respectable.
Yeah, I'm equally learning that I'm too dark for the camera. I should do some makeup on my face, probably. So any sponsors out there willing to do this, kindly hit my inbox. But just in case you're joining us, of course, my name is Likuyani Eli. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you. This is the family edition, and I'm with one and only Nyokabi BK Kamau. You know how we roll. This is the edition that you all need to sit down, listen, share, and of course, let's have a conversation. So let's kick it off, Nyokabi BK Kamau. Last week, we discussed about parenting of adolescents.
Yes.
And a bit of these things were actually showing or mushrooming in that discussion. So this week, we're just going to take it head on. Toxic parenting. What exactly is the definition of toxic parenting? In very layman's understanding, Nyokabi.
First of all, Ellie, toxic parenting is not a medical term. Don't nobody go out there and saying that you, Dr. Nyokabi and Nurse Ellie, you're the nurse, came up with
I love
this
the nurse part. I love the nurse part.
came up with this diagnosis that there is such a thing as toxic parents. It's not a medical term, it's not a mental illness, it's just a word to explain a toxic situation. When you talk about toxic parenting, we are talking about a pattern of behavior, a pattern of negative behavior, a pattern of poor discipline. As you as a parent, you're not able to discipline your child because maybe the way you go about disciplining the child is a little bit toxic to the child. And the word I'm using is a little bit scarcely, because there are parents who are just generally toxic. By being toxic, I want you to imagine a chemical that you go into an environment for, like, for example, if you mix jik and something else in the house and you're trying to clean, the fumes that come out of that mixture is that toxicity that we are talking about. So if you're a parent and your parenting releases some fumes that challenge the emotional development of your child, the physical development of your child, the sanity of your child, the discipline aspect of your child, then that's the toxicity that we are talking about. And by the way, before we go on with this topic, I want to place a disclaimer and say that parents do make their best effort to be the best parents they can be. We are not ignorant of that, but we also want to address the issues that are causing us to raise dysfunctional children and to have dysfunctional families. Some of the challenges that we are facing as parents trying to discipline our children who are not hearing what we are telling them. And we can even know how is it that we are becoming toxic and how can we rectify that particular pattern of behavior. So we are not here to beat the parents. We are just here to help you and guide you to develop a better way of communicating and disciplining your children. Ellie, when you hear the word toxic, what do you think about? Which are some of the characteristics that you can think about of a toxic person?
Even before I define in my own understanding who
Yes.
a toxic person is, the word toxic in itself defines something that is poisonous. So I'm not going to use too much Oxford English because I never went to that university in the first place. I've only
Mm-hmm.
but studied in the University of Life, and it tells me a toxic individual is that which that anything that they emit out, it's poisonous
It's
to the
toxic.
environment around them. So it
Yes.
produces some sort of poisonous chemical effect, and I'm talking about a
Yes.
person. That's why I'm saying effect on the environment, and the environment could be the children, the spouse, the friends, the office, the colleague, any other person that surrounds you. They will always feel some very negative energy. But
From
now
you.
to this extent, as we are becoming parents or being in a family setup, we are
Yes.
imagining a parent that they try to do what they believe is okay, but in real sense, they are harming the very people they are supposed to be nurturing. And that's
Yes.
what, and that's where my English ends.
Awesome. That is a lot of English. Your father did not waste his school fees.
I can
That cow he
tell for a
sold
fact
was
that
worth it.
that cow, they
That
didn't
cow he
just sell a
sold
cow to
to
educate
go to
one.
school was
They
worth
didn't
it.
sell a cow to educate one, right?
Yes, they didn't sell a cow to educate a cow. It was worth it. It was worth
Okay.
it. Now,
Yeah.
Ellie, I want us to dive into this topic so that we can decipher it. The word I'm using is to decipher it, so that we, parents that understand what we mean when you talk about pattern of behaviors that come across as toxic to your child. So I know there's a parent who is thinking, okay, so what can I be doing that is toxic to my child? If you're a parent who is emotionally unavailable to your child, and I want to start with that one so that the comments can go haywire. You know, people can go like, oh, Nyokabi, we just don't have the time. We are tired. We are coming from work. Angalia wewe kama sahi uko show 9:30. How are you available for your child emotionally? That is one way of being a toxic parent. When you're absent emotionally, when you're not connecting with your child emotionally, that's one way of being toxic. You're being toxic in the sense that you're not giving this child an opportunity to interact with you with emotions. You're not giving this child the opportunity to hear you uh, distressed, frustrated, stressed, because most parents try to hide these feelings from their children. But the reason why I want us to start with emotional absence or emotion, unavailable emotion, is that when you're going through, a child learns through seeing and hearing. Like now, for example, a child who is always talked to all the time, you unampatia story to, eventually they talk very fast, right? A child who you engage in walking, unamshika, unamsaidia kutembea, you put their legs up and you help this child to walk. Eventually, this child walks very fast because they are learning from what is happening around them. Children who are second borns, third borns, and fourth borns actually grow up very fast because they're in an environment where growth is being provoked. So when you talk about a parent who is emotionally unavailable, what we are saying that is that you don't allow this child to connect with you emotionally. Which are these emotions that I'm talking about? I'm talking about emotions that portray vulnerability. For example, if you're going through a difficult time, you want to hide that from your child, thinking that you're protecting the child from exposing them to that kind of an environment. But would they get hurt as well? Would they go through a situation that they're not happy all the time? So why do we feel the need as parents to hide this feeling from this child? So that means when this child is also going through a sad time, they will also hide it from you as a parent because you have not shown them that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel upset. It's okay to go through this emotion. So as a parent, you have to be emotionally available. If you are coming home in the evening, instead of dismissing the child and telling the child, wewe enda huko unanisumbua because you had a hard day, your your day was hectic, you just want to get home and unwind and settle down, but this child is all over you, she's trying to jump on you, he's trying to have a communication with you, he's calling you mommy, mommy, mommy. Oh, teacher said, oh, homework, 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 homework. Oh, auntie, oh, I need you to do this for me, for me, for me. Oh, tomorrow is this day for this particular activity, and you're just feeling today is just not the day.
Mm-hmm.
Be emotionally available as a parent and tell this child, you know what, my son, I love you, but today I'm just not in the mood. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling frustrated. I had a very long day at work. What you're doing when you become emotionally available to this child is that you're also developing their emotions. So if you're a parent who doesn't connect with your child emotionally, you're creating a toxic environment. You're denying the child an opportunity to learn how to deal with emotions.
Yeah.
Ellie, allow me to
Yeah.
drive this one home. When it comes to matters of loss and grief, these are some of the things that people find very hard to share with children because you think a child will not understand or a child does not know what is happening. When you actually put that aside and say this is a person who can actually understand and you explain it to them,
Yeah.
we lost so and so, this person will no longer be with us, and this makes me feel sad as a parent, this makes me feel frustrated, this means I need to cry. Instead of taking these children away to their grandmother or to their grandfather so that you can deal with your grief, involve them, allow them to go through the process so that they understand what happens during this kind of time, because where else, Ellie, will they learn emotions if not from their parents, Ellie? So we need to allow ourselves to be vulnerable with our emotions and not to be self-centered as a parent. That is the toxicity. If you're emotionally unavailable for your child, you become self-centered, right?
Yeah.
You start thinking about yourself. Yes, Ellie, I know you want to say something.
No, it's sort
Say.
of a question that I'm trying to figure out. You've
Yes,
you've you've mentioned that when things go haywire, you have to involve the children. You just had a bad day, you have to tell them, today is not the day. But again, somebody will say, yeah, Nyokabi, but this is one of the only profession in life that you will never take a day off. Once you
yes,
become one, you'll have to go through it until death do you part. I think that is
yes,
the only way we can describe parenting. But even
yes.
after death, you still remain a parent to that person. So how do you balance the two? Because they will always say, my dad, my mom, despite you not being there.
And that's why I'm saying, Ellie, as a parent, the core thing here is to be a human being. Parents, we feel the need to be superheroes. We feel
Yeah.
the need to be the heroes for these children. You want to be superwoman, you want to be superman, you want to be super dad, you want to be super mom, but it's not possible. And in the process of trying to be super, you're denying this child a few things that they need from you as a parent, not just you to always be at the top of your game. When you allow this child to see you vulnerable, when you allow this child to see you broken, you're giving them also an opportunity to connect with you, to
Hmm.
come to where you are. They can even comfort you. I've seen parents who their daughters come and they just see you, they read you like this, and they tell you, Mommy, today is one of those days at work. Don't worry, I'll pray for you. And they come and they hug you and they tell you, do you need a cuddle? Will it help you? You see, you try to connect with this child on a human level. Is it making sense? so that you
Makes a
go
lot of
through.
sense because
Yes,
I've seen that a lot of times in a lot of families that actually connect, and
yes,
I know of this young man that always tells the parent, "Oh,
yes,
how was your day?" And they
yes,
say, "Yeah, it was good." And I was listening to that conversation; it amazed me. And he goes ahead and said, "Would you love to have a beer? Would you want me to
yes,
massage your feet? What
yes,
exactly you like?" And you find that, as you say, they with that they become emotionally aware. But if you had that bad day and you come here throwing tantrums and probably
yes.
bashing everybody on your way because you just had a bad day, probably that's where the that word
Toxicity.
toxicity goes up.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And what you're showing this child is that you're teaching this child how to unhealthily deal with emotions. These are the people who you find it's a grown up, Amanda supermarket, they are trying to get served, or there's a delay in the system. They start throwing tantrums. They start yelling at the attendant because they don't know how to deal with emotions. They had a bad day, so they expect everybody to just understand they had a bad day and should give them space. So, as a
Mm.
parent, you have to be very responsible. You have to teach this person that yes, it's okay to have a bad day, but in the process of having a bad day, I shouldn't go destroying everything on my way. I shouldn't go shouting at the child at the top of my voice. "Nyamazeni huko nyinyi!" Calm down.
Answer
Calm
that
down.
question, if you may, as we try to tell these to shut them down. Ray Asami says, could it be that some children may ask so many questions that it may be hard to explain and make them understand what you mean? And I think she's referring to the grieving period when you lose somebody that is close to the family.
There's a manual to helping a child with grief, which you can ask a professional, and sometimes you can even Google it online. How do you take a child through the process of grief? So, yes, these questions sometimes can be very many, but they'll be meaning for the first case or for the first experience you give this child, right? So,
Mhm.
as time goes by and as they continue experiencing this thing, those questions will be answered. So the best thing to do with that kind of a child, if it's in the case of grief, and I would like her or him to comment and let us know if she's asking in regard to an issue of grief, then you have to answer the major questions. Number one, who has left us? Who has departed? Who has gone to be with the Lord? Number two, why? What happened? Were they in an accident? Were they ill? What happened? Those are things that you need to explain, because people don't just wake up one morning and they disappear. So you explain to this person. The other major question that they ask is, where have they gone? So that one then narrows down to your faith, what you believe, where you stand within your faith. Then you explain like that. Number four is the question of, okay, from here, what do we do? So, as a family, this is what we are going to do as a family. I have personally gone to places where children have lost their father or their parent, and because they are 5 or 4, nobody's telling them what's happening. And then on the day of the burial, they start asking, why are they putting that person in the box, and they have put so and so's picture, that's my mom, that's my dad, and this child is unaware. So and they bury the person and they tell them, oh, they died on that particular day. They don't give this child a healthy way of processing the grief. Allow the child to go through the grief as you are going through the grief. So answer these questions and as they come. And again, it comes back to vulnerability as a parent with your emotions. You can tell this child, at this point, mommy or daddy cannot be able to give you more information beyond that. But after we have finished this process, we can pick a day out and we can discuss these things in a more relaxed environment, in an environment that's not too demanding, that's not too pressing, that's not too emotional, so that I can help you understand, and so you can be able to learn from this experience. So it's good to answer those questions, but answer the major questions first. And you can answer those questions as you explain. Don't wait for the child to ask. Answer them as you explain, and then you can excuse yourself out of it. I don't know why parents fear children, by the way. Why do parents fear children? Can they tell us in the comments below? Why do parents fear children? Why do they fear having conversations with their children? I would
I
like
think
to
children,
know.
children, from my perspective, are the only human beings that they are so cute when born and become very unbearable as you grow up. But that
Yes,
is an assumption. They shouldn't be unbearable. So, Nyokabi, we are having this discussion, and the topic is toxic parenting. We
parenting.
have laid
Yes,
the foundation and we understand the nitty gritty about it. So, the most common form of toxic parenting appears when disciplining comes into play. And you will agree with me, in the recent past, we've seen a couple of them on Facebook and social media here and there of
yes,
parents or caregivers actually sort of abusing children in the name of punishing, or rather
Yes.
disciplining them.
Mm-mm.
What is your take on this? Is this a form of toxicity? Oh, Jesus Christ. I will never write that out.
Toxicity.
That one.
Actually,
That is Nyokabi has said.
you have eaten bananas today.
Too many
Like
of them. Too
you've
many
eaten
of them.
bananas. Your tongue is slippery, slippery. All right. So I want to talk about abuse. When you talk about abuse, the first thing that comes to people's mind is physical abuse. The reason why it's physical abuse that comes to people's mind, because physical abuse, you can see it, and that's why it's called physical abuse. You can see the bruise, you can see the scars, you can see the actions that have been taken that illustrate the physical abuse. But when we talk about abuse with parents, there are different levels of abuse. I'm just going to go through the types of abuse, then we will focus on each one pole pole as we go along and as we engage in the conversation. The most common one that we know is physical abuse, kuchapa, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you're disciplining the child, how much you beat them is can actually crosses the line. The line between discipline and abuse is very thin, and we will explain that as we continue. So there's a physical abuse. So the physical abuse is how far you go when it comes to disciplining the child. How far do you beat them? Do you beat them ukiwambianga nitakupiga nikuue? Do you beat them and you take their head and you bash them on the wall? Do you beat this child until their body swells and they develop scars? Do you break the bones of this child? That is physical abuse. Okay? Do you cause injury to this child as you discipline them? Now, when it comes to physical abuse, as a parent, if you're disciplining your child in anger, then you are definitely abusing them, because discipline has nothing to do with anger. So that is one type of abuse, physical abuse. The second type of abuse is emotional abuse. And emotional abuse is seen through yelling, uh,
Mhm.
there's yelling, there's threats, there's the use of words mostly is what causes emotional abuse. And emotional abuse is accompanied by manipulation. Zinenanga hivi, you manipulate the child. You can either manipulate the child by telling them, I will not love you, or you're not my daughter, or you're not my son, because you have done one, two, three things. The mistake does not take away the position of this child from your life. What they have done is a mistake that needs to be corrected, and it shouldn't change the love that you have for them. It shouldn't take away from this child who they are to you. So if you take that away from them, if you tell them, you're not my son, I don't love you, I don't know who gave birth to you, go back to whoever gave birth to you, oh, I wish I had a different parent, I wish I had a different child, then you are emotionally abusing this child. When you're sitting there in the sitting room and you're shouting for no reason, the child is just playing, doing their thing, you are the one who is in your own emotional state, and there you are shouting, oh, at the top of your voice, you're emotionally abusing this child, because first of all, you startle this child. They don't know why you're shouting. You confuse them. You scare the daylight out of them, because they don't know. They have not made a mistake. They are just you're just in a space where you're not able to accommodate the child being a child to you. Am I making sense? So
Mhm.
when it comes to emotional abuse is what you have to be very careful about. When you keep telling a child, wherever you're just like your mother, wherever you're just like your father, and it's on a negative note, what are you trying to say? That their mother is bad or their father is bad? Or wewe unakaa tu kama mwenye uliitwa, you are the one who gave them that name. Oh, why are you stupid like that? You're stupid. Mimi, I'm not stupid like you. I used to get A's in my class. You're emotionally abusing this child. The other one is sexual abuse. And this one, no parent wants to talk about. But let's touch it. Let's touch
before
it.
before you even mention the sexual abuse, because it is a form of abuse and toxic parenting that happens in our families. Let
Mm,
us quickly go to the comment section in Yokabi just to notice who is saying what and actually acknowledge the people are watching tonight. We
yes,
will start all the way down. We have Lucy Kapumpum, who says, I've been physically abused, emotionally abused. This is a thing I want us to dig deeper into. Then we
yes,
have Anne, who says, kids can drive you onto the roof, and it can happen
yes,
because those are very little animals, I will call them this one respectively, and they can really touch those nerves that nobody
yes.
else can.
And they know how to press your buttons. They
The
know where
right
to
ones,
press.
the right, exactly.
They know how to press.
And just before that, before I can read that, we have Nancy, who says, thank you, Nancy, for joining tonight. She
Yes.
says, should we always be honest with our children when it comes to bringing bad news or lie to them because we think they are too little or small to understand some things? I would like for you to respond
Honesty
to
is the
that
best
later on.
policy. Ellie,
Okay,
honesty is the best policy.
despite
Honesty,
the age and how
it doesn't
fragile the
matter.
news could be.
Honesty is the best policy because that lie will eventually catch up with you and they will feel betrayed and you will have taken something from that child. So, honesty is the best policy. Let's go on, Ellie.
And then we have, I will try to retranslate these. Children are very interesting human beings. Sometimes they have strange questions on their feet or at their tip of their fingers
Mm,
until sometimes you might not find the right answers to actually give them with their inquisitive nature. And
yes.
I believe that. I don't know what you want to say about it, Nyokabi.
Well, I want to skip that one. We will address it somewhere.
Okay,
Let's skip
great,
that one. Then
great.
we'll highlight it when we are addressing it so that we answer that question of curiosity in children.
Great. So Zena,
Mhm.
stay put for that correspondence. And then we have this one, Esther Mwangi, based on the manuals we were talking about or resources. She asked, what book or resources do you recommend for talking about grief with children? If there are any, Nyokabi, could you share with us these resources?
There are any, and I will share it in the comments after this show because I need to find that lady. There's a particular lady that I find. She does coaching on
Yeah.
preparing children for grief because she deals with parents who are terminally ill. So they prepare the children to deal with the grief of the loss of the parents, and she has an amazing program. If you allow me, after the show, I will share the link so you can access and you can be able to find her books and what. And she has very nice videos and documentaries on how to prepare children to deal with grief.
And there, thank you so much for your response. And of course, stay put for that. Claire Musinga says, that's true, Nancy. Honesty is the best way to go with the kids. It's in correspondence to the question that Nancy raised. Again, I will allow this to come again. I grew up, my mom telling me she's not my mom and chasing me to go to search for my own mom. The
Mm,
reasons I didn't know why I'd see my biological mom. It is not easy and very unacceptable to treat a child like that. And you
yeah.
see, we are talking about things that are really happening in the society. Shishwini
Yes.
James says, my cousin grew up with such parents, stepmom in brackets. They were abused physically and emotionally. I thank God they grew up to be better people in the society. Well,
Mm,
quite a heavy topic, I will say, Nyokabi, and I know you want to talk and tackle sexual abuse, but of course, there are a lot of these things that are coming in the comment section. Keep sharing with us with the hashtag @InHeart responding to live, and of course, you can tag in Nyokabi GK Kamau and remember to share the link. Nyokabi,
yes.
I want you to a little bit expound on the emotional abuse because there's
Yes.
something that we did in our previous show, and I think it will be befitting to actually
Mm,
reflect on it on this
mm.
show. Let's take a look. And this is for the teachers.
I almost dropped out of school. And now that is the time that I was getting so much harsh comments from this particular teacher. It's a male teacher and telling me, by the way, wewe hata hakuna mahali unaenda. And na hii performance yako, there is nowhere you're going. You're just a fool. And that thing really drained me. And I just felt like, okay, I just felt like this this is too much. This is too much. So being at that point, hey,
Yes, Nyokabe.
Ellie, you know me, I've been through that myself. I've actually gone through the two levels of emotional abuse and physical abuse myself. And I've experienced what she's talking about, and I think it really resonated with me. It actually took me back to when I was in Form 2. And I remember when I was in Form 2, I was quite, I always had a very small body, but accentuated parts of my body were very conspicuous. And
Mm.
I remember one of my biology teachers had taken a particular interest in those particular parts that were very exaggerated. And when I didn't respond positively, he really came after me and told me, "Oh, you're not even beautiful. Oh, nobody will ever love you. Nobody." And this is coming from a man, and you're in high school, and he's telling you how nothing good will ever come out of you. He will make sure that you fail all the way. and make sure that your mean grade will be below average so that you don't pass unless you comply. So I can understand what she is talking about. And when the thing about emotional abuse, and that's what I said, with physical abuse, you can see the scars, you can see the cut, you can see where the damage has been done. But with emotional abuse, it's internal. And that's why I gave out those examples specifically of what parents tell their children from day to day. I don't know who you are, I don't know who gave birth to you, you're stupid like who, oh kwenda huko wewe sijui nini, those things that this child goes back and sits in themselves and they feel rejected, they feel abandoned, they feel unwanted. Those emotions can really affect this person even to their adult age. They will always be feeling like they're not enough, like they're below the standard, because the person who is supposed to love them and care for them isn't. And when you're emotionally abusing a person, you use your mouth, you use this is the tool you use, not so much of much and the attitude and the physical actions that you do with this person. So when it comes to emotional abuse, you have to be very careful as parents, because it's something that you can go by without realizing that you're doing to your child. Like now when they bring you the performance, if your child, let me just put it this way, if you don't beat your child, but when they have a challenge, they don't share it with you, then it means you're emotionally abusing them. If they are not afraid of the physical beating them and they are afraid of telling you something that happened to them, then it means you're emotionally abusing them. You're triggering fear in this child. How do you trigger fear? When they fail their exams, they're scared to come and tell you. They're not proud to come and bring you the results that they have. The thing about life is that you'll always be up and you'll be down. Such is life. There's always that play of up and down, up and down. There's never any time that you're constantly at the same level. I want to use an example of somebody who is a high performer. There's a child who is a high performer. They always score A. They're always number one all the way to number three. They're always number one to number three. But when this child comes number three, the parents are not proud of this child. So this child is afraid to go home and tell their parents that they came position three. Understand that position three isn't a failure. But because this child has dropped from position one to position three, to you as a parent, it comes across as a failure. How this child brings that information to you should illustrate to you whether you're emotionally abusing this child or not. What kind of fear have you developed in this child? Can this child come and tell you, Dad and Mom, I did not perform well this month. I did not perform well this term. I secured position number three. They are proud of that position. But I promise you, next time I will try and become position one because I know you prefer me in position one. This is a child who isn't abused. This is a child who has been empowered to express their emotions. This is a child who understands it's not always you can become number one and it's okay sometimes to become number three. But a child who becomes number three and they're scared to go home and they'll not be physically be beaten, it means there's something that this child is saying to this child, you have started to become stupid wewe, umeanza kukua mjinga, umeanza tabia funny, and I told you you will fail your exams. These are some of the things, small things. You don't do major things to emotionally abuse somebody. Small things are the ones that affect this person. The words you say carry a lot of weight. Carry a lot of weight. Even if you go and tell somebody, after you even have a big forehead. I don't know, Ellie, if you've ever noticed that people like me who have big foreheads, like now I remember I discovered I have a big forehead when I was in Form 3, I think, and I was in school and I was in my home science class, and the teacher was teaching about hairlines. I think I was in Form 2 or Form 1, and he was teaching about hairlines, and he gave an example of hairlines that are back with mine. Ellie, that is the day I knew I had a forehead. My whole life I had not known I had a forehead. So it is these small comments you make at the back of your tongue without much thought of it that trigger the emotional abuse. They affect the self-esteem of the person that you are dealing. So emotional abuse is a topic that Ellie will need to address by itself and sit down and talk about it, decipher it, to anisha so that parents understand why we are saying that they can become toxic parents. Yes, if you say something to your child and it makes your child cry, that is emotional abuse. Ati anakaa chini, unipendi mama, you don't even want me, I'm not your baby anymore. Stop manipulating your children. Just come out clearly.
Nyokabi, I still want to stick on the emotional part because, as you say, these are the only scars that never get written over your body, but they get
Yes.
written in your mind, your soul, and in your whole well-being. There is a common trend that is coming up of parents that are afraid to correct their children, if I would say, or discipline their children physically because it's becoming child abuse over the years. They decide to lock their children in some dark spaces or rooms or toilet, or say you are grounded, stay in your room for 3 days. What do you make of such kind of disciplining choices?
There are different types of disciplining, and grounding is a type of disciplining. Uh, Taking away privileges is a type of disciplining. Spanking is a type of disciplining. The difference is how extreme is it and how effective is it? And at the end of the day, does it end up teaching the child or making the child more resistant to what you're saying as a parent? Now, when it comes to taking your child into a dark room, what is your objective? To torture them or to discipline them? Is your objective to correct the behavior? Because that is what discipline is about. Discipline is about correcting the behavior. If you yourself you are put in that kind of a position, what would be your reaction? And I like that you have mentioned the issue of abuse has become it's become a pandemic. We are scared to discipline our children because our generation, Ellie, since we were abused, we were beaten. We were beaten for what we did, for what you're thinking about doing, and for what you will do. You are beaten for everything. You are beaten because your sister made a mistake. You are beaten because your cousin did this. You are beaten even before you could blink your, and you are beaten. You are not told why you are being beaten. I remember one time nilichapwa na sandak, my whole body was swollen. I couldn't go to the hospital. And as a result, because of that trauma of being hit, I developed arthritis at a very young age. So sisi tulichapwa, yani kichapo cha umbwa. And this person is chapaing you and telling you nitakuchapa nikuue, amekukanyanga hivi. So what is the objective of that action that you're taking? When you put this child in that dark room, what message are you sending to this child? When they're in that space thinking, what are they thinking? What are they experiencing? Are they feeling love from you or are they feeling hatred? This is a question we want to ask ourselves early as we even look for other methods of disciplining our children other than spanking. Because also the world is evolving and the society is changing. Spanking isn't as effective as it used to be. But at what stages should you use particular kinds of disciplining or types of disciplining of children? Does this child understand why you have put them in the dark room? Because disciplining is about correcting the behavior. I have put you in the dark room. For how long is that child going to be in the dark room, Eli? Ama you have put that child like sisi tulikuwa tunatupwa nje, unalala nje kwa corridor. The whole night, the parent forgot that they put you out. It rains, you're outside. It's cold, you're outside. You see, these are the things we're talking about.
Nyokabi, it's something that it's very personal to me because
Yes.
I saw a story of a lady, rather parents, real parents. They decided to discipline their own child in the middle of winter because she was not either listening or she was just being cranky. So
Yes.
they put her on the balcony outside. It was freezing cold, only with her underwears, and the child froze to death.
Yeah. Yes.
The freezing winter of Europe.
What did they expect? They expected the child not to freeze to death. That is the question I would ask those parents as they are crying and mourning the loss of their child. What did they expect? As you discipline this child, do you have a plan? That is the question I always ask about parents when it comes to disciplining. Do you have a plan? Or do you react at that moment with emotions, with your day, with the mood that you're in the day? Do you have a plan? Because when it comes to these other methods of disciplining, like time out, Ellie, is a very effective way of disciplining a child between 5 years, right, and 3 years. Is very effective because a child who is 5 years and 3 years does not know how to sit still. So a timeout will really affect them. They'll know, I don't want to be on timeout. I want to have access to play and I want to do this. So as you tell this child, I'm putting you on a timer. And by the way, you're not shouting, you're not screaming, you're firm, you're in control of your emotions, you're in control of your thoughts. And you tell this child, Wairimo, I'm putting you on timeout because you did 1, 2, 3 things, and that is unacceptable to this family. You're not allowed to do that. I told you last week, you did it again. Now you need to pay the consequences for your actions. So your timeout is going to be in your room. You will not have access to this. You will not have access to that. You will sit at this particular point for 1 hour quietly and stillly. The more you misbehave, the more you run around, the more you come out of where I have told you to sit, the longer the time is going to be. So it's up to you to decide, Wairimo, whether you want to sit there for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. Because the minute you come out, we restart the clock. All right? So what you do as a parent is that you put the clock there. So this child, 1 minute in a situation that you don't want to be in can feel like forever. So you're using psychology to effect change in this child. So you tell this child, sit here and sit still and think about what you have done. I want to know whether you are sincerely apologetic for what you have done. I want to know whether you realize why you are on timeout, because after disciplining, you need to sit back with this child and have a conversation about it. And you know, when you talk about these things, people say, oh, those are white people things. Oh, these are not our things. Because you want to bring up a healthy person. You want to bring up a whole person. You want to bring up a person who fits well in the society. So you need to develop these things, and parenting takes time. And this is what parenting is about. So you tell this child you will be there for 10 minutes. You'll be there for 15 minutes, and immediately you move. The objective here is for you as a parent to be in control of your emotions, of your thoughts, so that this child learns from that. Even if they press your buttons, they don't get a reaction out of you. When they run, you go there and you reset the clock. And you tell them, I explained to you at the beginning, if you do da 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 da, this is what will happen. When they realize you're serious, and children do realize that a parent is serious, they will do exactly as you're telling them. So as they sit on that timeout, you're in control of that situation. You're in control of how this child is feeling. You're in control. You've let them know is the consequences of the actions that they took. And then you have a conversation afterwards. The conversation reassures the child. It takes care of that fear that you have put in that child. You let the child know, okay, you are on timeout. What did you do? Mommy, it's because you told me to put away my toys and I didn't put away my toys. Next time, what will you do? I will put away my toys. Why? Because I don't want to be in timeout. Now, what is the next thing that you're supposed to do? Apologize. Are you sorry? Yes or no? And this child should have the right to say no, because I was going to put out my toys. Mommy, you grew impatient. Okay? They should be able to, yes, they should be able to say, no, mommy, I am not sorry because I was going to put out my toys, but you put me on timeout before I could do it. I delayed. What I am sorry for is I delayed. I didn't do it immediately as you told me. Now you're developing a healthy relationship with this child. Disciplining is becoming a correction of behavior. They're also making you aware. Now you tell them, next time, if I tell you to tidy up after yourself, you have 10 minutes to do it. You have 15 minutes to do it. You have 5 minutes, so that we understand each other. Nisikugware na usinigware. You understand, Ellie? And it seems like it's a lot of work. But if you practice it, it works, right? If you go to a child in the supermarket and you enter the child, let me use the supermarket as an example. And Ellie, it's a tight budget. Corona has eaten all the money. We have no money. No matter na watoto kwa.
What money are you talking about? We have no
And
money at all.
and they want yogurt. Sasa yogurt is a luxury. Yogurt is for rich people. It's not for a common mwananchi anymore. But this child normally gets yogurt. So you have gone there to the supermarket and this child is telling you, daddy or mommy, I want yogurt. What kind of a conversation are you having with this child? You tell them, usiseme ati hapana, and you walk away.
Yeah.
Explain to the child, mwambie, you know what? At this moment, today, I can't buy you yogurt because I don't have money, or we can't afford yogurt. We have come to buy what we need, which is milk and bread. Choose. Do you want to take black tea tomorrow morning and take yogurt today? Chagua. Now, if you want to take black tea, does your sister at home want to take black tea? Does your mom at home want to take black tea? What will serve all of us as a family? Is it the milk or the one yogurt you want?
Thank you so much. I mean, Nyokabi, as we actually let us just engage a little bit the audience, because I don't want them to feel like we're in a lecture hall. So if you're watching us tonight, let us know what is your form of discipline that you actually administer on your child. Remember to use the hashtag @InHeart responding to life. And if you want to, you can tag Nyokabi BK Kamau or tag Likuyani Eli. So this is your chance. Let us know, how do you discipline your child that is becoming errant. Uh, let's go to the comment section again. Let's see and engage with the audiences. Nyokabi, if you may. Fine, I'll
You
go all the way up.
want to go all the way up?
Yes, so that nobody feels left out. Nobody feels
Yes.
left out. We start from Zena, who says, Nyokabi, I grew up abused by my uncles and my biological papa. I had no one to advise me apart from my teachers. Wazazi, kelele, matusi, kukataliwa na kiboko havisaidii, bali vinaharibu mtu kisi, kisa, kisaikolojia. That,
Yes.
insults and physical abuses and using the whip all the time does not end up helping the child, but they
No.
psychologically affect that child you're trying to discipline.
Yes.
Says Lucy Kapumpum that sometimes I wish when growing up there were shows like this. So helpful, Nyokabi. Thumbs up. And thank
No.
you so much,
Thank
Lucy,
you.
for always being there and actually following on our programs. And well, as Ansarafin says, Ann Lumasai says emotional abuse. So we are talking about emotional abuse. We have again Susie Loves Susie, who says she's tuned in and late thanks to the Ramadan. We understand. Welcome to the show. And yes, Anne again goes ahead to say, our tongues, may God forgive us.
Yes.
Uh, I want to go a little bit down because I was beaten because I went to visit my cousin and came back home late. Probably you didn't ask permission to leave the home. Sometimes you have to know why, but yes, beating it's at a different level. And Nancy gives us a response to what we had initially. I think I will go with this first, in your cab, if you allow. Every
Okay.
age asks for a different approach. As a parent, you discipline a 3-year-old different from a 12-year-old. And that is perfectly put and framed. Thank you so much, Nancy, for
Thank you
your
so much,
contribution.
Nancy. Yes.
Yes. Let's see. Let's sample another one here and see what we have. Um,
This
we
is the
have
one I had
again.
put up,
Okay,
Ellie.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
let me put up this one. I want to highlight it. I don't know where it's going. I think because you're highlighting and I'm highlighting, it keeps disappearing. They are saying that I think also it's wise to sit next to them at the same height as you can. Look at them in the eye when you are disciplining them. This early, I don't want us to take it for granted, especially if you're using the discipline for timeout,
Mm-hmm.
whichever other alternative methods of disciplining other than spanking.
Yep.
So when you come to the level of the child, then you're having a grown-up conversation with the child at the level where they are. It reassures the child you're no longer intimidating, you're no longer scary, you're not a monster. They can hear you at that level, coming to where they are. Even when a child is going through an emotional, what do I call it? Emotional tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
When you come to their level, when the child is crying for no reason, there's that day early that the child just wants to cry the whole,
Yep.
you don't
Mm.
know what is going on.
They are fighting their own demons, which you
Their
have
own
no idea why
demons.
they are because they cannot communicate in the first place.
Yes. So you sit with them at their level and you tell them, hey, I understand you're upset. Why are you upset? Tell me why you're upset. Do you need a cuddle? Do you need a hug? Do you think a hug is going to help you? Do you think having a conversation about it is going to help you? If it's a girl child and they have their kitchen toys, you can tell them, hey, let's have a cup of tea and talk about this. So you sit with them where they are and you have a cup of tea. If it's a boy, you approach it differently. You sit in their room and you sit on the floor and you say, hey, what's going on? Do you know why you're all over the place? You're screaming, you're crying, you're moody, you're throwing tantrums. I'm talking to you, you're not listening. When you sit at this position that Nancy is talking about, it really helps you connect with the child and you're able to have a very healthy conversation and by the way, these things extend to when they're teenagers. It's a very healthy habit you're developing. So by the time they're teenagers and they're feeling, oh, mimi ni ule msee, when you tell them, hey, son, come sit down, let's talk, they know what you mean. So they sit and they say, unajua buda wewe umenizoea. Nimekuzoea aje?
Mhm.
Nimekuzoea. Don't lose your emotions. Listen, it's the language. Listen. Listen and hear them out. Ellie,
Yeah.
can you ask a question?
Yes, I do have a
Mm.
question for you, Nyokabi. And
Yes.
before I do take the question, because time is really passing through very fast,
Oh dear.
let's just address this one. Some of us grew up being punished by both parents. We had
Yes.
to take a walk out into the city and find our own lives. My
Yes.
parents had to come in terms after realizing we made the right decisions walking away since they never gave us audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is serious. This is very serious. You know, our parents look for us today early and they don't see us. Na wanasema tulienda Nairobi,
Mm,
tukahamia Nairobi,
mm,
tukajificha Nairobi, tulipata majob majuu, hatuendangi kuangalia. But when you think about going to visit these parents, surely
yeah.
you can't even have a conversation with them. They still don't realize that you're no longer a baby, even though you'll always be a child to your parent. But there's a point you get as a person. You have outgrown some stuff. You have outgrown being shouted at. You have outgrown being told how stupid you are. You have outgrown being manipulated to give money or to take responsibility with the family. So the tactic has to change early. The conversation has to change so that this person can feel they can come to you. So if the conversation changes, then you can be able to deal with this parent. And that's what we are nurturing from a tender age all the way to adulthood. If I can go sit down with my mother and have a conversation about life without her being demeaning, insulting, dismissive, and conclusive, you see, I'll enjoy going to have a conversation with them. But we avoid toxic people at all levels. At all levels. Hawa ndio unaonanga buda anaingianga kwa nyumba watoi wanafanya cha uoni
And I
hata
think
mmoja.
I think I've seen that on ground in such situation because
Yes,
there's one time I walked into one of my friend's family and I noticed they were having a normal conversation and laughing, and you know that your dad is there, your mom is there, your sisters and your siblings are all there, and they were having a real family time with nothing specific to talk about. And then I
yes,
went home and I asked my dad, "What's wrong with you, young man? We never have a conversation in this house because once you
yes,
come in, I walk out through the next door."
yes,
And I think that was a great turning point because it helped him realize he had
yes.
detached a lot. And that is where again the toxic nature comes into play, and then it
Mm,
brings some sort of divisive kind of family ties, because you find when this happens, especially when a father is not approachable, children will always lean towards their mother.
yes.
And when they come to age or of age, they will want to take revenge. That's when you mention their dad, they don't want anything to hear or do about their dad.
Yeah.
And yes, as a parent, if you're there, kindly think about these things because you are actually growing children that are going to be part of your future. So you decide how it goes. Nyokabi, let's run
Yes.
things down and very quickly, I want you to address the part that we were avoiding for a long time, which is sexual abuse as a toxic relationship happening in the family setup with parents.
The first thing that I want to say right here that the same way talking, the same way learning, crying happens through children observing their parents, so is sexual awareness. Children learn sexuality from their parents. And that is why in the past, the boys stayed with their fathers and they learned how to be men from their fathers. And the girls stayed with their mothers and they learned how to be mothers with their mothers. And that's the challenge we are having today with the boy child. The boy child is alone. The fathers are out there making money and buying big cars, and the girl child is at home with the mother,
Especially if
wondering
it's
where
a Subaru guy who is you guy, my guy.
Yes, wondering where their father is, developing a very negative attitude towards men, learning that men are not home, men do not participate in family responsibility. So, the first thing to understand as a parent, as much as you introduce food to your child by winning them and giving them bananas, you teach them about bananas, about oranges, they also learn about sexuality from you. Now, let's talk about that is the positive side of it. The way two partners in a relationship relate with one another, the man and the woman. The child is learning how a man and a woman should relate at a sexual level. Okay, so the man is learning this is how a man treats a woman, the woman is learning this is how a woman treats a man. This is how a husband live together by just looking at you. I have had counseling sessions with people who say, Mimi, I don't want to get into marriage. If marriage is what I saw my mother and my father doing, what I can. I have had people who aspire, they fight for their marriages even if they are toxic, because they want a marriage like the one they saw with their parents growing up. So as a parent, you need to understand that just because as African sexuality is a taboo to talk about, is unacceptable, is a sin, is one thing that is so gross to talk about, it doesn't mean that the children are not learning about it. They are, and they're learning it from you. They learn it how you relate with one another. They know when you're being intimate with each other, especially if you live in these small houses that we live in Nairobi. Children know, and children are clever than we give them credit for. They know when you speak your love language, when you speak those two chords, you speak with each other. Today is banana night, today is pumpkin night, today is papaya night. They know what you're talking about. They are aware, and they discover at a very tender age. So don't say ati my child is 5 years analala kwa bedroom yetu hajui tunafanya nini. Anajua. We may not exactly know what you're doing. Exactly, I know these guys are doing 1, 2, 3 things, but their body also respond to that sexuality. And that is why you see when you're bringing up a boy child, when you're cleaning them and removing their diaper, they get an erection because their first sexual experience, they get it from their parents. Now, where does the toxicity come from? Likuyani, a parent might ask. It comes from the exposure that you're giving this child. I want to start from the basics. If you make your daughter embarrassed about their sexual parts, you're sexually abusing this child, because these sexual parts are not things to be embarrassed about. They are private parts. They are not to be embarrassed about. They are not to be ashamed about. They are private parts. And what you need to teach this child is that these things are private, they are sacred, they are a part of who you are. They can change your life in an instant. So what you're teaching this child is not that sexuality is bad. Like the way when I was growing up, we used to be threatened that if you get pregnant, I will kick that baby out of your stomach. Can you imagine at the age of 13, 14, being told that I will kick that baby out of your stomach and atatoka na mdomo? You know how traumatizing that is, Ellie, for a child. You're wondering, guy, atoke aje kwa tumbo, atoke na, you expect to vomit this child. It was a very bad way of creating caution or creating sexuality awareness. All she had to do was to tell me, at the age you're at, you can easily become pregnant, you can easily become a mother, and ask me questions that will help me understand why I don't want to become a mother at that age, using my aspirations and my dreams at that age. By simply telling me, I know you want to go to this high school. If you become pregnant, you'll not be able to go to that high school. Simple things. And when I'm in high school, you tell me, if you get pregnant, Nyokabi, you'll not be able to go to campus. Your dreams will be cut short, because you will be home taking care of this baby. So there are other healthy ways that you can actually create sexuality awareness without becoming toxic as a parent. Now, another another sexual abuse that parents negate, and they don't realize it's a sexual abuse. When you're a woman who is beating your husband, or you're a man who is beating your wife, like I said, children learn about their sexuality, their sexual orientation from parents. What are you teaching this child? What are you exposing this child to? That men are to be slapped around, that women are to be slapped around, that it is normal for you to be violent with your partner. This includes verbal abuse. When you call each other, wewe ni, you know, woo, woo, that one. What are you teaching this?
You know that mouth that they always say,
They always
amekuja.
say,
You know,
amekuja. Hiyo
amekuja.
nini?
You have no name.
Hiyo nini? Imekuja. What are you teaching this child about sexuality? The role of a man and the role of a woman, and what key part they play in your life. When it comes to taking showers and introducing them to the sexual parts, how do you go about it? When you and your partner are being intimate and you have a child in your room, how do you go about it? Have you made sure that this child cannot hear you? And by the way, what is the child doing in your room? Right? To start with, right? When you come home and you're a man and you're uko hapo na mbochi, or you keep introducing uncles to your children. Oh, huyu ni uncle Kamau na si brother yako, si brother ya nani. You abuse the word
And the,
uncle and
and the
auntie.
uncle comes at night when dad is not home, and then disappears when mommy is not home. Ladies and gentlemen, we can never exhaust everything. But guess what? Nyokabi BK Kamau is your relationship coach, and of course, she touches a lot on family values. You can always reach out to Nyokabi with the following details: on her Instagram, on her Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Nyokabi GK Kamau +254 780 810 987. I will again say that. That is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Nyokabi GK Kamau. On Instagram is Nyokabi GK. So if you type that, you
Yes.
get it out. And you can call her on +254 780 810 987 for more advices on how to deal with these things at home. I know, Nyokabi, people have asked you, especially Matthew, asked this question. Matthew, we have a special program that addresses such kind of questions every single Wednesday. I'm inviting you to come there because you never know. We might just discuss this in that topic. So be sure to subscribe, share, and of course, always follow on the updates because we have programs throughout the week to fill in all those things that you never got taught with anybody. Okay, fine. So Susie Love asks, haven't seen my question to Nyokabi, right? I have no idea what question it is, but let's see. Let's see. You know, sometimes you cannot go through all of them, but I can assure you we will always find it in the comment section and respond to you. So kindly bear with us. Bear with us. We cannot address all the questions and comments that come in. But again, thank you so much for always joining us. It's been a very interesting discussion. And Nyokabi, as we
Yes.
close down, what do you want to tell parents who have had strained relationships thanks to the toxicity that they put into their children growing up? Is there hope for them? And what can they do to regain what was left?
There is no situation that cannot be redeemed. There is no situation that cannot be redeemed. It doesn't matter how old your child is or what stage of growth are they at. There is no situation that cannot be redeemed if you take the right strategy and you follow through with it, and the child, you regain the trust of your child, you can always redeem the situation. Number two, as a parent, if you understand the difference between disciplining and breaking the spirit of the child, you will be at a better position to negotiate your case. Disciplining is about correction of behavior and not correction of the child, because there's nothing wrong with the child. The behavior is what is wrong, and that's what we are addressing. Now, you can use simple tactics to rekindle the relationship with your child. Number one is to rebuild the trust by simply apologizing and acknowledging where you have gone wrong as a parent. You can simply say, I am sorry that sometimes I lose my cool on you. I am sorry that sometimes, and please let's not have buts or let's not have justifications as to why you did whatever you did. We're not saying that whatever why you did is not valid. It's valid, but what we are saying that if you want to apologize to somebody, you must validate their feelings more than you want to validate your own. So let the child know that you are apologetic for the mistakes that you have made before, and reassure the child that you're going to do better. The reason why I am saying use the word I am going to do better is because you're a human being. So let the child know that, yes, I will make mistakes along the way, but we will learn together and we will improve our relationship. And in the process, before you know it, you will have redeemed the relationship and you and your child will be at a better place. And again, life is about practice. We never really are perfect at anything. It's only God who is perfect. So we practice how to communicate, we practice how to apologize, we practice how to resolve and reconcile relationships every day by simply having simple questions like, how are you feeling? How did that make you feel? I am sorry I made you feel that way. That was not my intention. And then maybe after a while, you can explain what your intention was with sincerity and honesty. People will respect that and acknowledge that, including children. Including children.
Thank you so much, Nyokabi GK Kamau. Remember, these shows come to you every single Saturday in the family edition where you can sit, learn, and of course, converse with us in the comment section and reach to us with the handles right in front of you. That is at Likuyani Eli. Facebook page, the arts underscore in heart. On Instagram, the arts in heart official. On YouTube, yes, we are also streaming live on YouTube, the arts in heart at gmail.com. And Nyokabi GK Kamau on all platforms. That's the handles for this beautiful lady who came in ready to unleash all the knowledge. And tomorrow night, I'll be with an interesting candidate on the desk, and she is, sorry about that, sometimes this thing go haywire. Nyokabi, you didn't warn me. I
Yes.
didn't get it right. So, I'm embarrassing myself in front of the TV and looking unprepared, but that is not how it's supposed to happen. So let's find out if we will get this done with. And tomorrow, as always, we have the station that we call it Ellie's Hangout. I'll be hanging out with one Jillian Piroth. Interesting read, interesting study. So come there, let's have a time together and let's converse. I want to leave you with the following, that it is never too late, but at the same time, you don't have to talk to your children. Talk with your children. That means you come to their level and have a conversation. Having said that, I think it's time to say goodbye, good night. It's been real being with you. I leave you with Fadhili Tulia's song, which says Mwanangu. Listen to the lyrics and listen to the words. It means a lot in this conversation. Good night. God bless you.
My sole purpose for you is to love you. My sole purpose for you is to love you. Mwanangu, kipi kitokea hapo? Mimi hapa nitakuwepo, wakupenda zaidi yako hayupo. Hata kama siwepo, usifuate upepo, watakupa mapepo. Mshiwana holina bararwa murwe. Mwanangu, kipi kitokea hapo? Mimi hapa nitakuwepo, wakupenda zaidi yako hayupo. Hata kama siwepo, usifuate upepo, watakupa mapepo. Mshibana holina banalwa murwe. Nakupenda hadi mwisho wa dunia, nitakufunza wema na pia kukinga pendo bandia. Nakupenda hadi mwisho wa dunia, nitakufunza wema na pia nitakukinga pendo bandia. Mwanangu, mwanangu.
You are here, you are loved, free to be what you want. I will hold you forever in my arms. You are one with the moon and the stars. Never question your worth, you will always come